I'm Stacey.
I'm Jenny,
And this is Learning for Life.
a homeschool podcast.
We are two homeschoolers who use different methods, curriculum, and strategies to make it all work.
Our goal is to help parents teach kids how to develop a lifelong love of learning. Welcome, everyone, to the Learning for Life podcast. We are so excited to have you here with us. I'm Jenny, and my co-host is Stacey. Say hi, Stacey.
Hello, everybody.
We just want to say, first of all, this is one of the first episodes we've recorded since releasing the podcast, and we just want to thank everyone who has rated and subscribed. It really, really helps, and it makes us feel nice too. Huh, Stacey?
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so Stacey, can you tell us a little bit about what we are talking about today in this episode?
Yes, I would love to. So with the end of the school year right around the corner, I know it's been a long year for everybody, including us. Many of you are probably already starting to think about what curriculum you want to use next school year. I know if you haven't already thought of that, you're fine. You're not behind or anything like that. But we basically want to make this episode kind of your go-to guide on how we find our curriculum, where we go to look, how we look for reviews, and then where we go to buy our curriculum so that you can have an easier time when you're looking for maybe a new curriculum this upcoming school year.
Yeah, and it's such a broad topic, so we want to kind of just dive in because there is so much to discuss here. I think curriculum is really not the heart and soul of homeschooling. I think that's more your why, but it's the head, it's the brain of homeschooling, roadmap. How do I do this? So curriculum.
Ooh, I love that. It's the brain.
Yeah, I mean, I just came up with that on the spot, so I must have drinking just enough coffee today. Yeah, so I guess we should just start with where do you start to even find curriculum? And I think the big key aspect here is just research.
Full disclosure for this, Jenny and I are kind of curriculum nerds. Maybe I am slightly more than she is.
Yeah.
But we love looking for curriculum and looking into different curriculums. So we find this research process to be really fun. And so we hope to kind of pass some of that joy on to you if this is not your favorite part of homeschooling.
And I fully agree with you, Stacey. You are a bigger nerd than me.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, we love to research curriculum, even if it's stuff that we're not even remotely interested in using for our own family. I think it's just really cool I could spend hours in a brick and mortar curriculum store. Oh my gosh, you know that, Stacey. So, but we'll get to that. So one of the really easy ways to find curriculum or just figure out which curriculum would work for you is to get recommendations from others. This has worked for me. Stacey has recommended things to me. I ignored her for years, and then I finally listened, and it was great.
Everybody should listen to my recommendations. They really should. Just kidding.
I'm a believer now. I'll listen to anything you recommend at this point, which is one reason why I'm excited to get to the recommendations of the week, but that's a story for a little bit later in the episode, so stick around for that. So recommendations from others. You can connect with maybe other homeschoolers, whether it's in person at homeschool events. I know up here, there's a local group of homeschoolers that just recently started getting together in person for homeschool support group type things.
Oh, fun.
Just, anyone who shows up to those groups is probably super knowledgeable in their own way. So they're probably all a wealth of knowledge in their own way.
And for those of you that don't know anybody yet, haven't been able to make those connections in the homeschool community, your best friend is going to be Google search, because that is a great way to look for different curriculums. And when you're searching, just search the search words best science curriculum, or even you can throw in there what homeschool method you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So you can do, best Charlotte Mason literature curriculum, or if you want online, or if you want print curriculum, you can be specific there as well, and throw that into Google search and see what it spits out.
Yeah, and homeschool methods is a whole other topic for multiple episodes, and that's something that Stacey and I do want to dive into at some point. But just for now, definitely if you already have some sort of grasp as to which homeschool methods you are really going to try to implement the most, yeah, that's a huge factor when looking for curriculums. And the curriculum companies know this. They know how to market their product to appeal to a certain kind of audience. Like, for example, I have my eyes like keenly aware of everything Charlotte Mason in my world right now. I'm a part of a lot of Charlotte Mason Facebook groups. I look on Charlotte Mason websites all the time. I follow Charlotte Mason Instagram accounts. So I get like ads, targeted ads all the time on these social media platforms of just various Charlotte Mason themed curriculum. And I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but that's kind of like counter to what Charlotte Mason is, but it's just interesting because companies know how to get you super interested in their curriculum. So it will be easy for you once you have a homeschool method to be able to find curriculum that you're probably the most interested in.
And another great place that you can look that also will say, you know, this is kind of aligned with certain homeschool methods is the Kathy Duffy Reviews website. And so this is a website where you can go and search any curriculum. I mean, I have yet to search for a curriculum on this website and it not be there.
Right.
So if I haven't come across that problem, I doubt you will. But, you know, if you do find a curriculum that's not on there, let me know because I'd love to know what it is.
No, you know the one that our friend Christine recommended, the primary language lessons. And then there's
it's one. It's not on there?
No, it's on there. I was shocked because it's like a super old book from the early 1900s. And I've never heard of anyone but our friend who found this curriculum called Primary Language Lessons by Emma Searle. She found it at a thrift store and she was just like, hey, I stumbled upon this hidden gem. It's super cool. So I looked it up on Kathy Duffy Reviews and it was there. And I was
crazy.
Floored. Yeah. So that website is super in depth. I think she's been doing it since the 80s. I think she's been like reviewing different curriculum in her own way since the 80s and then like created a website around it and she's killing it. So I highly recommend that website.
Yes. And the best part is over like on the side of each one, she gives this really nice detailed review that you can go to read. But on the side, she gives kind of like a cliff notes or just an outline of like, what method does this align with? Is it religious or not? Is it, I can't remember all the other things.
Yeah.
But she gives a whole list of a bunch of different details on there.
Yeah, it's all the criteria that like at a glance, like for you, it might be a deal breaker if something's religious or secular. And so she kind of lists all that really, really easily. And what I like also is on her reviews at the very bottom, I forget what the section is called. I should have looked on her website before we started recording. But it says something like, bottom line is, and then blah, 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 blah. So if you don't want to read the whole thing, I mean, it's super in depth, so it's very informative. But if you don't want to read the whole thing, you can even just read that last paragraph. And then, like Stacey said, the little section at the side. So it's really user friendly.
Yes. And so another place that we love to go to find curriculum, and I'm going to preface this one with a warning, is you can go search for Facebook groups. So there are homeschool Facebook groups. You can search by your state. You can search just by your, again, going back to the homeschool method, you know, if you're unit study, Montessori, anything like that, you can find a Facebook group for those types of homeschoolers. So you can go by method, by state, just in general homeschoolers sometimes. And these are a great place to get lots and lots of ideas. And, you know, I've even been able to find, like someone would recommend a website for me. And I'm like, oh, wow, like I didn't even think to look here. I didn't even know I needed this sometimes. But when you are asking questions on these groups, make sure you're very specific.
Yeah.
Jenny and I love to help out. You know, we're involved in a couple different groups here and there for homeschooling.
Many.
And yeah, probably many. Yes,
including our own homeschool group, by the way. Do you want to tell people the name of that one so they can find it?
Yes, it is it's the Kids Learning for Life homeschool group. It's very, very straight to the point here.
I don't know why I can never remember that. I never have to search for it. It's just like an extra tab on my Facebook app, so I don't ever have to look at the name.
Yes, but we have that group there. You know, I love when people are sharing things they're doing or asking questions there. We love to help. So if you want to come join our Facebook group, you are more than welcome. And Jenny and I, again, we love to give curriculum recommendations, but you have to be a little specific, because if I'm in one homeschool group that's just a very open, general, anybody can join. So if you say, hey, somebody just posted recently, they're like, what's the best math curriculum?
Oh my.
And I kid you not, I went in here in a joking tone, of course. And I said, wait, are you trying to start a homeschool rumble? Like, you can't just throw that question out there.
Right.
Because, you know, what grade, you know, make sure you tell what grade you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you want it to be online or not, if you do subscribe to a homeschool method, what do you want? So there's all these different questions that you should preface beforehand if you want to get the best recommendations. Not that what people are recommending isn't great, it's just not going to be very targeted to you.
Right. And I've made that mistake before. I've posted like various posts over the course of the past probably year. And people were like asking follow-up questions. And I'm like, oh, that's right. These people don't know me. They're not just Stacey, who I can just say, hey, what's the best math curriculum? Stacey would have an answer for me because she knows who I am and what ages my kids are. But like, these people are just anyone on the internet. So yeah, I definitely agree. You gotta be specific. You gotta be willing to feel like you're like drinking out of a fire hose, because people will give you recommendations. So careful what you ask for. But I mean, in all seriousness though, it really is a good resource if you're just looking to get like an insane amount of recommendations, depending on how big the Facebook group is, of course, and how involved people are. But I mean, I see some posts with hundreds and hundreds of comments on them, and I'm like, ooh, wow.
I feel so bad for those authors that wrote that post. I'm
all
just
those
like,
notifications.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
They're like, their phone's probably going ding, ding, ding if they have notifications on for Facebook.
Hopefully somebody on there gave them a really good recommendation. And so once you have a good recommendation, you either looked at it, you got a recommendation from someone else, you looked on Google search, a Kathy Duffy review website, or a Facebook group. Now, let's say, let's use an example of All About Reading that I love to promote. Somebody has suggested All About Reading to you. You think it might work for you. Now what do you do? Like, how do you know that All About Reading is gonna be that curriculum? So we need to be able to take a deep dive into that curriculum. So Jenny, what should we do first?
Well, first I want to preface this by saying thank you for choosing All About Reading. It's clearly just a way for you to brag because you were right about it for so many years, and then I finally decided to use it, and I'm like, wow, this is great. Everyone should use it. And now I recommend it to everyone on all these groups. So it's coming full circle here. So what I look for first, say, I stumble upon All About Reading from some very nice person on the internet, or I find it on Google or whatever, or Kathy Duffy tells me about it. I always want to see any sort of sample pages from it. And most curriculums these days, especially if you're purchasing from online retailers for curriculum, they will offer some sort of PDF that you can download for free that gives you a really good sample of what to expect from that curriculum. So, like, for example, I think All About Reading actually has a really good one because it gives you some of the activity pages, if I'm not mistaken.
I do not know for sure. I have not looked into them.
Oh, okay.
Again, skipping ahead, you can go to a brick and mortar store and look at it, which is how I ended up finding out about All About Reading in particular.
Right.
Is someone recommended it to me while I was at a homeschool store. And so they were showing it to me. So I just got to open it up and see it. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, you definitely want to try it or at least see it, a little bit of it first before you buy it, because all of us know that curriculum can really get expensive. If you're looking at certain types of curriculum, it can get very expensive. So you always want to get an idea of what to expect with it. And you might get that idea and you might buy it, and then still might not be for you, but at least you did your due diligence and you're not like totally diving into something blind.
And you can also check out, depending on where you're going to buy it, if you are going to buy it from online, or even if you're not, but you can look at like Amazon, or Rainbow Resource is another homeschool curriculum store, and you can look at the details and even see if they have any reviews. So that's another good way, you know, people recommend it to you, and now you're going to look and see what people who have already used it are saying about it.
Yeah, I love Rainbow Resource, and Amazon is actually a pretty good homeschool curriculum seller as well. The reviews on Amazon, as we all know, can be kind of like the Wild West, so just take that with a grain of salt. But Rainbow Resource also has that whole like video series for a lot of their more popular curriculums that people look at the most. They have like their own reviews and flip throughs on there, which is really cool.
Yeah, and speaking of flip throughs, that's also another way you can look through these different curriculums is by going to another popular place called YouTube.
Oh, never heard of it.
You can go on there. It's this small little website, and you can search, you know, all about reading review, and then you could add kids learning for life to the end of that search, and you'll find my review of the all about reading. And I flip through some of the pages, and you know, you'll find lots of other people reviewing this curriculum as well, because it is a more popular one. And so that'll give you a chance to like look at, I always make sure if I'm reviewing something to kind of show the table of contents.
Yes.
I can't show like everything on these reviews, but I can show you the table of contents so you kind of know what to expect. I find that's the most important part when you're looking for curriculum, is kind of seeing if you can find the table of contents so you know, okay, where does my kid need to be to start, and then where are we going to end?
I love looking at the table of contents, especially for something like math, where, especially in the lower grades, I feel like we as homeschool parents, even if we are not experienced educators in the real world, we can kind of have a good grasp as to, okay, yeah, my child needs to learn multiplication, so let's start here. So I love flip throughs. Gosh, that's hard for me to say. Flip throughs on YouTube. And we have a whole curriculum review playlist where we try to make it as simple and quick and, you know, to the point as possible, because I think most people, you know, they want to hear your review, but they also just kind of want to see what's inside the curriculum, the books. So we have that whole playlist available. It was kind of a work in progress because, you know, we're going to be reviewing more curriculum as time goes on, as we use different things. So it's a really good resource for you if you're looking into any of the curriculum that we've already reviewed. So I'll link that in the show notes.
And another good thing to note about that is we're only reviewing curriculum that we have used. Not necessarily saying that we loved it or didn't like it, but we're going to review it because we have used it, which I think is really important. There's some reviews that people might give you a flip through, but they can't kind of tell you how it worked for their kids. So I think that's really important that we make sure that we have actually used something with our kids, at least for a good length of time. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm very, there was a curriculum called Layers of Learning that I was super, super, super excited to use. And I still may go back to it one day when my kids are a little bit older. But it wasn't working out for like the season in our homeschooling life right now. So, I mean, we did maybe 2 weeks of the curriculum. So I could do a review, but I don't feel like that would be very fair to the curriculum. So, you know, I don't want to do a review when I haven't done enough of it to really give it a good shot.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. And that's one thing that kind of blows my mind, just to go back to Kathy Duffy reviews. Like, how does she come up with all this information and all these opinions about curriculum? You know, it's like, we know that she's not using all these curriculum. I don't think she homeschools anyone anymore. So, yeah, definitely, like, coming from us, it's definitely, you're getting all the information from people who actually use it. So keep that in mind when looking for flip throughs. So I guess we should move on to, once we decide what we want, once we've gone through the whole process of researching and looking at reviews and looking at sample pages and all that stuff, where do we buy it? Stacey, do you have any suggestions here?
I have a lot of suggestions.
I'm sure you do.
I mean, you know, we've already talked about two of the big ones where that's really easy to find your homeschool curriculum is Amazon and Rainbow Resource. And those can be two big players to get things. I kind of almost tend to go to Rainbow Resource just because I know they're going to have all the kits. So what you want to look for is at Rainbow Resource, they not only have, you're all about reading curriculum, but they'll show you, here's all the other items you're probably going to need to be able to use that curriculum. Where Amazon has it suggested, but it's not like a complete list of here's what you're going to need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like Rainbow Resource is a website specifically about homeschooling and for homeschoolers. Amazon is just trying to sell you, leggings that make you look skinnier. You know what I mean? Like they have all sorts of things on there. So it's not necessarily the place to go to find all the different components of all about reading, like all about, or like primary mathematics is what we use for math. You need a workbook and a textbook and then potentially like a teacher's guide or like the exams or whatever. There are different components to almost every single curriculum. It's not usually just one book you open and go. So yeah, Rainbow Resource is always very clear about that. And speaking of all about reading, and I don't know if we had planned on talking about this, but I wanted to mention that some curriculums have like their own website that might even offer better deals than anywhere else. Like, for example, so All About Reading, I started using it after I started homeschooling independently, so I was particularly in this phase where I did not want to spend a lot of money, but, Stacey had been recommending it to me forever, and then I also, with some local homeschoolers that I get together with about every month, they had all recommended it too, and they said that the cheapest place to find it is on the All About Reading website, and I was like, okay, sure, because, I'm a big proponent for, like, Rainbow Resource, which always has stuff supposedly on sale. Certain items, I'm sure, or like Amazon where, free shipping, but I went on the All About Reading website and it wasn't significantly cheaper on there, but even if I had to pay out of pocket for shipping, it was still a better price than anywhere else, which kind of surprised me. So when you're looking about where to buy it, don't rule out just going straight to the company.
Very good point.
Yeah, so that's something that, I had never thought about. I think a lot of times millennials like us, should we not admit that we're millennials? Because now I guess millennials are old.
Apparently.
I mean, I don't have a
You're
side
talking
part.
about skinny leggings over there, so.
I know. But like, I think some of us just kind of skip over past, just going straight to a website to buy something. Like we want to buy things from apps like Amazon, but definitely, give the actual company a try to see if maybe they can win your business. And you can also get on like some email subscribing lists, and sometimes they'll send you coupons and stuff. So that's always good.
Yes. And also, if you are like on a budget and trying to not spend as much money, and maybe you're looking for something that's more secondhand and you're okay with that, you can check out your library, your local library, which I'm going to pass this question off to Jenny because she is always at the library. It boggles my mind when she tells me, I found this curriculum at the library, and not even just to borrow, right, Jenny? You actually purchase it.
Yeah, so I frequent my library. I feel like I know the library's schedule better than the library knows their own schedule, because I've kind of gotten in this rhythm of, I think it's like the first Saturday of every month is usually a big, huge used book sale. And I plan my weekend around it every time that weekend rolls around. And the library never promotes it because I think they're just not used to promoting themselves. That's not their strength. And so I'm like, okay, I just know there's going to be a book sale, whether they promote it or not. And I show up and it's always open. So yeah, at the used book sale, but it's essentially like going into a used bookstore, a huge used bookstore in a huge warehouse. I find all sorts of things, and I'm talking about, it's all secondhand, but especially if you're homeschooling the traditional route, there is straight up like box curriculum there, like that people use in classrooms. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if like the school district donates it to the library to sell or what, but I see that kind of stuff. I see all sorts of nonfiction in there. So if you're trying to use nonfiction books to teach your kids about history, whether it's, through autobiographies or biographies, or just, people telling the stories of past wars or distant countries, it's all there. Seriously. I mean it. So, and my library is pretty small. I don't live in a big city where there's tons of donations. I've been to other library book sales that were even bigger. And at that point in my life, I wasn't really looking for curriculum, but still, no matter where you are, if your library is having a used books sale, then definitely check it out. And then moving on from a library, if you have a library that is local to you, but it is not doing book sales right now, you can always check out one of my new favorite websites, Thrift Books. Stacey and I both have a lot of experience with thrift books, and I especially recently, I've been trying to buy a lot of old books that I really can't find anywhere else, not even at my local used bookstore that I love to frequent as well. And Thrift Books, basically, it seems to have multiple options at different prices based on the condition or the edition of the book that will fit in your budget. I think if your order is more than $10, then the shipping is free. So it's a steal. They do have this like option where you can buy new books through them. I don't know if that's a new feature or what, but yeah, you can find anything of any sort of condition on there. So yeah, I bought like 5 books for like $30, which is really good considering one of the books was like $15. So you do the math.
That's awesome. Yeah. I won't do the math, but
we need to use primary mathematics and sharpen our skills, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. I love Thrift Books. I've had great customer service with them as well. I used them a lot when I ran my in-home daycare. But when I did my in-home daycare, I would buy books based on the theme that we were doing, which is in our preschool and toddler curriculum on our website. It's totally free. I created the curriculum when I ran my in-home daycare for my preschoolers and toddlers. And so each week has a different theme. And so I would buy books. So it's springtime, I need to buy spring books, or it's Halloween, I needed to buy Halloween books. Because at the time I didn't have a huge library. So I went to Thrift Books and was able to find books on there. And there was one book that I got where the last page had like a fold out, and that page was actually ripped. And it was like, it wouldn't have really mattered to me, but there were words on that page. And so we didn't know how the story ended. I was curious. So I did reach out to them. And so they totally, like, no questions asked. They just sent me a new book. They didn't even ask for the old one back. It was, I mean, I can't say they're going to do that every time.
I've also noticed that they ship things super fast. Whenever I've ordered anything from Thrift Books, even though I'm not paying for shipping, so I'm assuming it's standard shipping, they seem to get to me within a week. So it's really, really nice. I mean, because I know you were ordering kind of on a specific timetable. So it's definitely good to check out Thrift Books.
And for those of you that don't like the internet, you can also check out your thrift stores, because they also have homeschool curriculum for you to buy.
So like this time of year, what is it, mid-March?
Yes.
I read something about like that public school teachers are kind of purging all the books that they don't need anymore. So the thrift stores are inundated with textbooks and all that. So if you use the traditional method,
Interesting.
Yeah, if you use the traditional method or use any curriculum that public schools would use, then you might want to check out thrift stores like yesterday, because I've seen so many people posting pictures of like straight up box curriculum available at a thrift store. And here's the thing about buying curriculum from thrift stores that is really cool. So thrift stores are not a curriculum distributor by any means. So when they get a curriculum, they don't necessarily know its value. So they would sell it for like, $2 or $3 because they're just trying to get it off the shelf. If you're willing to hunt for what you want or be patient and wait, then if you find it at a thrift store, I'll bet you anything the price will beat anywhere else. I wanted to also mention that there are homeschool curriculum groups, which are like either trade, swap, or sell. So those are places where people can kind of like, trade, swap, or sell. Pretty self-explanatory.
This is on Facebook, right?
Oh, yes, on Facebook. Sorry. If you're in search for something and you are just having the hardest time finding it, I suggest going on those groups and just saying in search of, and then list what you're looking for. And, it doesn't always work, but at least you're kind of putting the word out there. Maybe someone would have some sort of information for you, or even have a copy that they're willing to give you or sell you or whatever. There's also a cool new Facebook group that I actually just found, and I invited Stacey to it because I was so excited. It's called Homeschool Free Cycle. Homeschool Free Cycle Community, I think is the full name of it. And it's just a group of seasoned homeschool moms. And I know this because they have tons of curriculum to give away. They just post things as they're going through, like cleaning out their curriculum or as they finish using stuff. And they say, hey, this is free to whoever, comments first. The one problem with that is you kind of have to be glued to Facebook if you want to get first on that list. But some people have multiple copies of things to give away. So even if you're not first, you still have a chance. I've been really enjoying being a part of that group. I've also been enjoying giving away curriculum there. So that's always something that you can look into. I also did want to mention, again, I know we mentioned kind of briefly before, but going in person to a homeschool store, I mean, to me, Stacey, I don't know about you, but nothing beats that.
Oh, I totally agree.
Okay.
We have a local homeschool store here in our area. And the first time I went into it, it was like I felt like a kid in a candy store.
Mm-hmm.
I really did, because I mean, this isn't even like a huge store. They have a lot, but I can't, they don't have everything. But just being able to go into the science section and go, wow, look at all these different curriculums, and then get to like take it off the shelf, look through it, see what it has, is just really, really cool. And then that store was actually where I got a recommendation for what I should use, because I said, hey, I don't know which math curriculum to use. I was starting to lean towards some like public school textbook, big publisher brands, because that's all I knew, being a substitute teacher and getting my teaching credential. So that's what I had worked with before. But the gal there was like, oh, well, if you're, homeschooling, this might be a better fit for you. A lot of families like it. And it was primary mathematics.
And we both use that to this day.
Yes. Then I recommended it to Jenny again, and she loves it. So all my recommendations are awesome.
I mean, that one I did listen to you originally. I didn't try to resist that recommendation as much, but yeah, you're right. Your recommendations are great. Well, let's just keep showering Stacey with compliments here. I mean, but she does deserve them. Yeah, so nothing beats going into the stores. I've even gone with Stacey before, and yeah, I'm pretty sure we didn't say a word to each other. We were just too busy looking around. And I think also,
I remember your daughter, like, she was just so cute. I think Jenny came with only one of her daughters at the time, and she was just going, like, holding my hand and walking me around the store and showing and pointing to different things. Even she loved it, okay? And she was like 3, and she loved being in the store.
This is what I want to add, though, and it's so funny you said that. So my kids used to love that store, right? And then now that I go there every now and then, they drag their feet going in there because they know that I'm just going to look at every single thing. And also the problem is that I'm not always going to leave with, new stuff. I mean, usually I'll leave with something, like maybe even just a coloring book for them, because they have all sorts of like educational coloring books, like science coloring books and stuff. Mm-hmm. So they know that it'll usually be fruitless and we'll be there for like 2 hours. As we mentioned, we are both curriculum junkies. I mean, we love to learn about new curriculum. And I think it's hard for us because I think sometimes we lean towards, since we have our eyes open in all sorts of directions about what curriculums are out there, we kind of are always like wondering what else is out there. So we're always looking, right? And so we don't always want to just be jumping from curriculum to curriculum. And this is something we actually mentioned with Shauna when we were talking about charter schools, because she is also just a wealth of knowledge about homeschooling in general. We're kind of talking to people who are just starting, but if you're a homeschooler who has been doing it for a while and you're still kind of researching curriculum, because I think that's kind of a never-ending journey when you're homeschooling, but you don't really always want to change things up, right, Stacey?
Yeah, it's really important to give the curriculum that you've poured all this time and effort into this research, getting the recommendations, diving into the curriculum, figuring out where to buy it, purchasing it, which is a cost, and then you need to make sure you give it a fair shot. Now, this is kind of like we're getting into like the gray area here. Sometimes you can get it and you just know right off the bat, like, it won't work. But hopefully, if you've done all that research, you're not going to have that problem. But if you do get a new curriculum, you want to try it out for at least 8 weeks and try it kind of however you think it should work. And if it's still not kind of working, like, maybe try it the way that the publisher recommends. And what I mean by that is, for example, like All About Reading, they give you a full teacher guide, and it even says verbatim like what you should say to your kids.
It's literally a script.
Jenny and I both, we don't go off the script, and we both cut little pieces. Like sometimes there's activity sheets that you can do and extra reading practice, and it really depends on your kids. So right now, like I think my kids are our curriculum is a little bit lower than their actual ability. It's weird. They've been learning faster than the curriculum is teaching them. I don't know how they're doing it, but I feel like I need to just jump to the next level. And so I don't necessarily do all the extra practice because I just want them to read the story. And then if they read it just fine, I know they don't need extra practice and I move on. So you have that flexibility. Nobody is going to come and make sure you are following the curriculum to a T.
Right.
I am giving you permission to mix it up a little bit. You don't have to do exactly what the book says or even use every single piece that comes with it. It's totally up to you. But if you are finding that you're like, oh, I really think this curriculum should be working, what am I doing wrong? Then maybe that's when you kind of look at, oh, well, I'm not using this. I wonder if this piece would actually make a difference. Then go ahead and try that out.
Right. And I actually wanted to mention something. So Explode the Code is a phonics? I guess it's a phonics curriculum. And it also reinforces handwriting, which I really like. So it was recommended to me from a friend who had actually used it when she was a kid. And now she's using it with her kids. And, I used it very consistently with my kids early on in this current school year. And then I kind of stopped because I felt like it was just going slow and my kids were dreading it every single time. Well, then I realized, for one of my kids, I was probably going too slow. And for another one, I was going too fast. She was way ahead of her ability level. And then the other one was like way behind their ability level. So I kind of reassessed it after probably taking a month off from it. And now we use it every day. The kids open it up on their own and just start doing it. And they actually enjoy it. So yeah, sometimes you just got to reassess how you're using it. I wanted to mention, so Explore the Code and All About Reading, and actually probably all of the curriculum I use was all recommended from a friend. So you definitely want to have that, or different friends, I should say, not just one, not just Stacey. Okay, she's not my only friend. Me. Yeah, I have more friends than that, but
not that many more. But she has more.
That's true. I'm glad you added that. I don't want to sound like I have tons of friends, but yeah, I think the best place to get curriculum recommendations is just from friends. Like they know you, and also your friends are probably kind of similar to you in a way. So you know that if they're recommending something to you, you know the kind of person they are, and you know the kind of person you are, or at least you should. So you can kind of assess based on what they're saying about it, how you're going to feel about a curriculum. So the ones that I've had the most success with over the past couple of years have all been ones that, people I knew personally had recommended to me. I also wanted to mention that there are less conventional curriculums to use. And I feel like this is kind of a separate topic. I mean, I could go on all day about this because it's something that I've been doing a lot lately. But specifically for things like the Charlotte Mason method, Charlotte Mason is very literature based. So it's kind of like you don't want your kids sitting and doing textbook drills all day long, which I do use certain curriculums that are kind of workbooky, but for the most part, I try to just make it fun and engaging for them. And I know my kids in particular really respond well to stories. So that's why we've been doing things like history from, there's a book called Our Island Story, which is a history of England for boys and girls. I think that's literally the title of the book. Our Island Story, a history of England, history of England for boys and girls. And there's actually, Stacey, I've been meaning to tell you about this. There's actually another, it's kind of like a sequel. It's by the same author, and it's called This Country of Ours, which is the history of the United States. So you're supposed to do Our Island Story, and it tells the story like in chapters that are like stories. So it's really engaging for kids. I think they think it's very fun. And so you're supposed to do Our Island Story, and then in the subsequent years you kind of work on This Country of Ours. So I'll show you that Stacey, when I get it, because I just ordered it from Thrift Books. That's the expensive book that I ordered because I really, really wanted it.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Coming full circle.
Yes, exactly. Here we go. We're podcasters now. We got this. But yeah, I wanted to mention that, there are less conventional curriculums. You don't just have to go off of workbooks and box sets and all this stuff. There are ways to do it where you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, and also like I know some people want to kind of avoid that kind of thing. So if you're interested in kind of like a literature-based thing, and it's more just, you're reading a lot of fiction with your kids, or things like Our Island Story, which are really engaging, then I recommend checking out AmblesideOnline.org. It's just a free Charlotte Mason curriculum on there. And by curriculum, it's not like it doesn't tell you everything to do. I mean, well, it kind of does. It creates a schedule based around certain books. So that's kind of just like a free form idea out there if you want some sort of alternative to, the big C word curriculum,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the like more unconventional type of approaches like with Ambleside Online. Also, something we haven't touched on in this episode yet is talking about like the online curriculum. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit earlier when you're like being specific about the types of recommendations you're asking from people. If you are interested in online curriculum, I mean, the best place to kind of look at that is going to be on that website. And most sites will have a free 30-day trial. So kind of like we said earlier, you can go to that website, Google search it, and then look, you can probably even find YouTube reviews on different things. So all of this applies to the online curriculum as well, if you were interested in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't believe we didn't even talk about that yet. Because I know you, Stacey, actually both of us have used some web-based curriculums, whether it was an app or a website, for the longest time. So we both used, early on in our kids' reading journeys, if you want to call it that, we both used Reading Eggs, which I thought it was really cool. Our kids just kind of ended up losing interest. For me, it was, the way I used Reading Eggs is I used it as a reward. So my kids don't get to like watch a lot of TV or use screens a lot in their everyday life. But even if it was like they got to be on an iPad to play an educational game, then that was like, wow, it's like being at Disneyland. I just, I felt kind of weird about, I don't know, bribing them with, I guess, like, if to me, maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong, but I felt like I was kind of bribing them with more medicine, like, here, take your medicine, and then here's some more medicine. But they really enjoyed that app, and that was another recommendation.
Yeah, exactly,
from
and that was another recommendation by me. Wait till we get to the recommendation of the week. I've got another good one for you guys.
You've given too many
we're
already.
Almost there. I know, but no, I mean that is brilliant, Jenny, because they really liked it, and my kids did too. I mean, with kids, you kind of have to like go to their strengths and weaknesses, and that's why, like reward-based systems, not every kid is going to get excited about like candy or, what kid needs more sugar? None. So you got to kind of find different things that work and things that they're excited about. We're getting in the weeds here, but just, whatever works for your family is what you need to do, and whatever works for your kid. And the last thing I want to do before we jump into the recommendation of the week is kind of like preface all of this. I know we've mentioned a lot of different curriculums that you may be interested in, you want to look at, but our biggest piece of advice here is if the curriculum you're using is working for you, then keep on keeping on. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Jenny and I have both been using primary mathematics since the very beginning. It's a very simple curriculum. There's not a lot of fancy manipulatives. Like if there are manipulatives, they just want you to grab things like around your house, and like maybe I will use just random things around my house. But I see all these other, like Math UC is another great curriculum I've seen. Right Start Math has all these cool manipulatives. And I'm like, oh, cool, manipulatives. Those would be so fun. My kids would love it. It would also, this might sound terrible. I also don't want to use those because I don't know where I'm going to store all that stuff.
No, it's really, that's really a factor, because I remember taking home some math manipulatives from Math UC just because they were free somewhere at a giveaway event for homeschool supplies.
Yes.
And I took it home. I was so excited. And then I'm like, where in the world am I going to keep it? So I think I just donated it to like either a thrift store or a library because I was like, this is too much. And also like, it's just too much, like too much going on. I like primary mathematics because it's very open and go.
Yes. And so again, if you're doing something and it's working, try to not be distracted by all the shiny new and every year there's going to be some new cool curriculum and everyone's going to be using it and raving about it. But if something you're doing is working for your children, then go ahead and just keep doing it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I love it. Well, Stacey, now that we've kind of winded down about curriculum, and you guys, let us know if you have any more questions about curriculum. We could go on for days about this. Clearly, we've really had to hold back here. So,
yes.
Yeah, if you ever have questions about curriculum, you can email us, kidslearningforlife@gmail.com.
Or just join our Facebook group and ask in there. We'd love to answer there.
Yeah, and other people in there are very, very helpful as well. And so let's go into our recommendations of the week. Stacey, you want to start us off?
Yeah. It's called the Klutz. That's the company. And it's a paper airplane book. Now, the reason I'm recommending this is because my kids, I mean, they have too many toys, guys. Okay. It's too many. And I try to condense as much as possible and they still have too many things. Like they have got plenty of toys to play with. Recently, they have folded their airplanes. And from this book, it provides you with paper too. But if you run out of that paper, you can use any regular like printer paper,
the
8.5 by 11. And it shows you how to fold it, and you fold it. And there's like 10 different designs in this book. And they went outside, and I mean, they have been playing all week. It's just been amazing. I have never seen them play with any toy that long. And this is a piece of paper that they folded. So if your kids are at all interested in things that fly or throwing things outside, and I think there's some that are recommended for more indoor use and some that are recommended for outdoor. So you've got both options there. Probably second grade would maybe be able to do it all on their own. But again, once you help them fold it, they can still go outside and play for hours. It'll be great.
So it's a book?
Yes, it's like a book kit type thing. And so again, it is just a book. It's spiral bound. And then in the back, it has like paper. So the book's a little bit on the bigger side so it can fit the paper inside.
That is so cool. I love that idea. Your recommendation kind of reminds me of how it's like almost always the simple things that your kids just end up loving and staying focused on for the longest time. So we have like a toddler. We don't have like a toddler. We have a full-blown toddler at this point.
Is she that old already?
She's a year and a half.
Oh man.
So she just loves to get into all the cabinets, and we have these baby locks on them that were actually installed before we even moved into this house because I know the previous owners had 3 small kids as well. And
fancy.
Yeah, but there's one cabinet, I don't know why, but it doesn't have the baby lock on it, and it's the one where all the pots and pans go in. But I mean, when I do let her play with like a pot and the lid that goes on the pot, she's occupied forever. So it just goes to that whole like, you know, the simplest is the best, I think, with kids.
Yes, and I totally agree, and that's really what it is. Okay, Jenny, what is your recommendation for our audience this week?
Okay, well, you know that I always have to like recommend something book related because that's just a phase in my life right now that I'm realizing has actually been the phase of my entire life, is that books have really been at the center of it. So
if I'm the curriculum nerd, you're the bigger book nerd.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've been over this before, but yeah, my nose is always in a book when I have any sort of spare time, or I'm listening to an audiobook. But anyway, the way that I have been tracking all the different things that I'm reading and how I'm keeping up with my reading challenge is I use an app called Goodreads. And this was actually recommended by one of our good friends, Christine, and I'm just in love with it. I think it's a really good alternative to using social media. Which is something that I'll just mindlessly scroll through, and it's not healthy. So Goodreads is a good way to direct my energy to something a little more positive. On the app, you can friend people. So I'm actually Stacey's friend on there, but I have yet to see Stacey rate anything other than Hunger Games or Harry Potter. It makes me laugh. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on blast.
No. It's fine. It's funny that I think we all realize I I don't read as much. So I'm not finding as much joy in this app, even though I am your friend and I love looking at what you and some of our other friends are doing. Mm-hmm. The reason I reviewed those, because at the beginning when you download the app, it says, oh, hey, let's like rate some books you've read. And that's what it gave me. And again, guys, my repertoire is not that advanced when it comes to novels.
If you looked at what Stacey's rated, you would think she's like a 12-year-old boy.
I'm just preparing myself for when my kids are old enough to read these books. That's all I'm doing.
Right. I can't wait till my kids get into all that, because actually I really do really like the Hunger Games series, but that's not my recommendation. So Goodreads app. So yeah, on there you can track your progress in all the books that you're currently reading. You can mark books you've already read as read. You can create a list of want to read books. So for me, it's really helpful because I think it's just an app that keeps me focused in all sense of the words, because it keeps me focused on anything but social media, which is just so much drama right now. And then also it keeps me focused on what I'm trying to be reading. So like I mentioned, I use the Ambleside Online curriculum kind of loosely, but I get a lot of book recommendations from there. And not just for my kids, like I use a lot of the book recommendations too. But there are so many books, and so I add them to want to read, and then I also, like, as I'm reading them, I just mark my progress off, and sometimes I'm sitting there late at night, and I'm reading a chapter of something, and I'm like, okay, I need to finish this chapter, I need to get through this so that I can mark on Goodreads that I'm this much more percentage through this book. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I highly recommend the Goodreads app if you're trying to be more mindful about reading. It's helped me a lot.
And yeah, I totally agree, Jenny. It is a really, really good app, and I do enjoy it. When I start reading more, you will be the first to know.
I'll be notified. I'll be like thrilled. I'll hit like and comment so hard.
All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap up this episode. We want to remind you guys to rate and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. We are also going to be adding our podcast to our YouTube channel at Kids Learning for Life. So you can check out our podcast there.
Yeah, on our YouTube channel, we post videos there every week, and check it out, because if you're new to homeschooling, it could be very helpful to you. So if you're enjoying this podcast, there's a lot more that we also do on the YouTube channel, so check that out.
And also, we wanted to let you guys know that we are going to be switching our podcast to an every other week. So we want to let you know there will not be a new podcast episode next week, but we will see you the following week.
Yep, don't miss us too much. Yeah, so I guess it's time for Stacey to say,
see you next time. And why is it just me?